Hey Steelers Nation, it's Joe Rockey here with the Pittsburgh Syndicate for Memorial Day morning. And this episode, I'm going to just do a real quick basic rundown of this is the Steelers since we last paid attention to them. Because I know that a lot of us are going to be stuck at some family functions or whatever, and we're going to need something to talk about. And maybe we're not up to date with the Steelers, which is totally fine. I'm going to give you a quick run through of the team, where we're at, and optimism looking forward. Long story short, last year, we have all these hopes that things are going to work out in the post-Ben era. Trubisky's the guy. Kenny's the draft pick. Week 1, Watt is looking like he's an insane man and he's going to win the league MVP, then gets hurt. He's out for the next half of the year. During that span, we lose 4 games that had he played at just normal Watt level, let alone the insane level of week 1, we would have won. Those being the Cleveland Browns, New England Patriots, New York Jets, and Miami Dolphins. I believe we would have won all 4 of those games had Watt been on the field. We ultimately lose them because we're not getting the sack production, but it's very glaring and apparent that the offensive scheme is ineffective. Trubisky's throwing balls out of bounds. He's throwing interceptions to guys who aren't even covering his targeted receiver, and Kenny's doing the same thing. Whole first half of the year, we're looking bad. It's ugly, and we basically don't have hope going into the bye week. The game before the bye week, Philadelphia absolutely spanks us, reminiscent of 2 weeks earlier when Buffalo did. We lose massively. Bye happens, the schedule gets easy, Steelers start winning. We only lose 2 games after the bye. Both are division games. One is Cincinnati, one is Baltimore. Following the Cincinnati game, the offense materially changes. 2 reasons for that. First, I believe Matt Canada got neutered in the background and no one really came out and publicly said that. But number 2, we started running the ball more. That was the evidence on the field. Shifts stopped. We started doing a little bit more diverse in our formations, and we ran the ball more. Najee became healthy, and then we just started going from there. That's the second half of the year. We end up being half a game out of the playoff. Had we beat Miami, we would have been in it, or any of those other 3 games. So let's get to this offseason. They keep Matt Canada. 80% of Steelers Nation hated that decision. Simple fact is he's still here, bottom line. We look at the offense around the horn. The whole hope is that Kenny Pickett will mature and get better, and there looks to be a lot of evidence that he will. Because as the second half of the year went and we started handling the ball better, all of the advanced metrics on a per-game basis, Kenny was in the top 10 in the NFL. Great amount of hope for him. We look around the rest of the receiving room. Hasn't changed. There is a belief that George Pickens, the rookie last year, is going to step up to be one of the best receivers in the NFL because he has all of the talented traits, size, jumping, catching. He has it all. He just hasn't had enough diversity in his passing routes, and he hasn't had enough accurate balls thrown his way. Again, mostly due to schemes where he was only running down the right sideline, and then it was Trubisky couldn't keep the ball in bounds to save his life. And with the scheme in general, he wasn't put in enough diverse spots on the field. As a result, we look at how could we fix this team and make Kenny's life better. The wide receiver room was basically already the strength of the offense, so we didn't touch that in the offseason. Where we focused was the offensive line, particularly the left half of the offensive line. Dan Moore led the team in penalties last year. First-round pick was Broderick Jones, who's believed to replace him. Broderick Jones has potential of becoming an all-pro one day. Dan Moore does not. End of discussion. Dan Moore might be better in this second in time, being the 30-year vet compared to a 21-year-old rookie. That's possible. But at the end of this season, Jones will be your starting left tackle, and he's going to light things up. We brought in 2 starters from other teams in free agency to fight with Dotson at the left guard position. It was widely believed that Samala was the best left guard free agent available. Quite frankly, I think he's top 5 left guards in the league, period. So it's a massive upgrade. And we look at the left side of the line. Now we can run through it without having to pull people across, and it's a better pass blocking. Long story short, now Najee is able to run through every single hole, knowing it'll be blocked well and efficiently. That is not a given in the NFL. Most NFL teams can run through 2 or 3 holes, normally to the right, and that's how the Steelers were last year. The only time we were effective to the left is when we had a pulling lineman going across to help out. That's not going to be the problem this year. We are now going to be joining the ranks of only 3 other teams that can legitimately man up across the line and run through every hole. Massive opportunity for Najee Harris. In the backfield, again, we didn't mess with Najee and Warren. Those guys are set. Great. The main addition and steal of the draft that we got in the third round is Darren Washington. Washington is the first person since Gronk to have that style of combine. Size, speed, hand size. Like all of these measurables are off the roof. At Georgia, he got hurt and he was mostly the blocker. But also at Georgia, you don't really get time to put up stats to your number 4 receiving option because you're blowing people out like crazy. That's fine. This dude can run you over, block like crazy, and there's a chance that we can run a 2 tight end set between Freiermuth and Washington and look like those Patriots with Gronk and Hernandez without all the murdery off-field stuff. So now let's flip over to the defense. And Steelers Nation, if you haven't already, please click like and subscribe. It does mean a whole lot of meaningful stuff to us on this side of the fence. Looking at the defense, you have the 2 best edge rushers tandem in the NFL in Watt and in Highsmith. We added Herbig to it, which was a 4th round steal, in my opinion. Guy had nearly a sack per game, started every single game of his career at Wisconsin, and was putting up production. He was endorsed by TJ Watt. It's going to be an amazing guy. Someone you can easily talk about at your barbecues here later on today. The interior defensive line still is obviously led by Cam. Cam is still the captain of this team, no doubt about it. We added Benton to him, also from Wisconsin. Adding people from your defense from Wisconsin, not normally a bad idea, especially the big guys. And Benton is basically unblockable. That guy gets off of blocks. He is slippery, and he hits people hard. He brings them down. People do not escape Benton tackles. Remember how we used to say that about Casey Hampton? That part's true. Just think of a much more athletic body type and being unblockable. The middle linebacker position last year was a complete and utter disaster. All 3 of them are off the team. We're trying to replace them with 3 new free agents. One of the keys being is that Lorenzo Neal is one of them, and Neal used to be a safety, showing that, hey, we're using this as a coverage position and a big stopper. If you want to think way back in the day, kind of like the Larry Foote and Ferrier type idea. One of you stop the run, one of you stop the pass, it'll work out. That's kind of how we're rebuilding it. Not sure if it's going to stay that way in totality because there's a lot of times in the current NFL where you don't have both middle linebackers on the field anymore. When we go to the safeties, KZ and Minka are back. They're going to be your starters. Where we got really fun going from last year is the cornerback position. Hayden is gone. Witherspoon is gone, and they were replaced with Patrick Peterson, the future Hall of Famer, and what many people in Steelers Nation is the steal of the whole draft. And I've said steal the draft a lot. Steelers had either the best or second best draft in the NFL, and that's universally accepted. We got Joey Porter Jr., whose comps are legitimately comped to Mel Blount. Dude is huge, he is fast in a straight line, and he is physical. The real question with Joey Porter is not a question about his skill set himself. It's a question about the NFL and their flagging policy. Could Mel Blount play in this league? Because Porter was so good last year that when the exception when he was covering Marvin Harrison Jr., who probably is going to be the first receiver taken off the board in next year's draft, the exception of him, no other team threw the ball at Joey Porter's direction. Period. The guy shut people down, and he played within the confines of the rules of college. And assuming that he can step up to the confines of the world in the NFL and he doesn't lose his edge, dude is going to be an absolute stud. So when this all comes together, the Pittsburgh Steelers are built to have the best cornerback room that they've had in a very, very long time, possibly since Ike Taylor was a Steeler. And the pass rush is going to be real. We look at the division that we're fighting in. Baltimore is in implosion mode. There's lots of episodes about that you can go search for. Cleveland's irrelevant. And the whole thing is going to come down to, can we sack Burrow and cover Chase and Higgins? Hall of Famer on Chase, Porter on Higgins. I think this thing's going to work out really well. Steelers Nation, hope you guys have a great Memorial Day. Hope that this tutorial will help you out. And we'll be with you all year long. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go.